Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners, July 25th, 2023, 6 p.m. meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. If you have any cell phones or other electronic devices, please silence those for the duration of the meeting. If you will, please stand for the invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father God, we just come to you this morning, this afternoon, Lord, just thanking you for all the blessings you bestowed on us, Lord. I especially thank you for these fine young men who represent the Meriwether Manchester Recreation Department, Little League Baseball that are here tonight and receive proclamation, Lord. I just pray that you continue to be with them and guide them as they go about their daily activities. Also lift up the Board of Commissioners, Lord, as they consider the business of Meriwether County, Lord, that you help them make the best decisions for the county. Again, Lord, I just thank you for all you do for us and what you mean to us. These things I ask in Christ's name. Amen. Amen.
Please be seated. Next item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. We have a couple of changes we need under public hearing. Item number 1, we need to remove. And under new business, we need to add item number 2 to discuss a jail roof contract. Hearing that, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Next item is presentations, and we have a proclamation of congratulations to the Manchester Meriwether County 8 and under baseball team. If you will allow me to read this, and then what we'll do is bring the coaches up, all of the children up, and we'll do a picture after each has received their proclamation with the commissioners. All right, proclamation of congratulations to Manchester Meriwether County 8U baseball team. Whereas the Manchester Meriwether County 8U age 8 and under baseball team was the first in Meriwether County to participate in the Rick Honeycutt World Series tournament. And whereas the Manchester Meriwether County 8U baseball team traveled to Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia on July 15th through the 19th, 2023 to compete in the World Series and compete. Whereas the team won their first 4 games by a margin of 87-23, including a 22-0 shutout in game 1. And whereas the Manchester Meriwether County 8U baseball team advanced to the finals of the Rick Honeycutt World Series, where they placed second. And whereas team members Landon Fluellen, Quamari Reed, Bentley Gribble, Ryder Jordan, Jordan Hale, Mason McInvale, Zayden Turner, Isaiah Jenkins, Aiden Guthrie, Shatravius Powell, Micah Weston, and Richard Fincher, Jr. came together to accomplish this outstanding achievement with support and leadership from team manager and coach Quardarius Reed, coaches Tavares Stanford, Chris McInvale, Taylor Guthrie, Anton Turner, and William Garrett, and with special support from Randy Carter from Manchester Meriwether County Recreation. Whereas the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize this noteworthy achievement of the Manchester Meriwether County 8U baseball team, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners hereby extend their congratulations to the Manchester Meriwether County 8U baseball team, coaches, and volunteers. Be it further resolved that this proclamation will be spread upon the minutes of this meeting by the county clerk, and she is hereby directed to transmit a suitable copy to coach and team manager Quardarius Reed on this date, 25th of July, 2023. So we do have one for each child and for the coaches. If you all will just come up. Team manager and coach Quardarius Reed. Laura Stanford.
He's not here.
He's not here. Chris McInvale. Taylor Guthrie. Anton Furnace. Coach William Garrett. And Randy Carter. We'll have each child for the ball, so we're gonna call out today. Landon Llewellyn.
We're not a couple down here.
For Harvey Reed. Bentley River. And here's Jordan Hale.
Not here.
Ryder Jordan. Mason McIntyre. Zayden Turner. Isaiah Jenkins. Aiden Guthrie. All right. The previous Powell. Micah. Spencer Hughes.
Step outside.
We gotta read y'all something. We should.
We'll present y'all, we'll try to leave that online. We ought to keep it in the office.
Yeah, let's go outside.
They was like 24/7. Yeah. So they would have us somewhere here we can see. But I'll be wrong somewhere. But then the people want to do that, so I agree.
I'll be lying to you.
They know.
Next year, the year after, maybe. I don't know, they start them young now. They do.
They're ready.
I've got a middle infield. I got a stop in a second, please.
I've never seen little kids like this. Oh, no, we done. That's not big. Oh, I love it. Hey, Steve.
All right, if we will, our interim county manager wants to say a couple of things, Mr. Thurengay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, Randy had called me about this, told me, about this team. And if they were gonna go up and play, we're real proud of them. And, I told Randy what we're gonna try to do also is to work together. I'm familiar with some teams that play in other locations. And we're gonna try to get together and see if we can have some games, maybe some, nothing else, just scrimmage games. And, I think we can make that happen and, get these guys back out to play and, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming out. We won't ask you to stay for the duration of the meeting because it'll probably be boring to the kids. So. Y'all have a good night. Thank you. Just the kids, just the kids. Yeah, so it's gonna be boring for us too.
Oh, thank you. You can remember the players right here.
We'll give it just a couple of minutes till clears out. All right, next item of business is a finance report, Mr. Beal.
And Mr. Chairman, y'all have the report in front of you. There's, general fund still has a good balance to last us till the end of the fiscal year. Also, I put on your desk up there, the, annual report that the, auditors will be here the first meeting in August, the Wednesday morning meeting to go over the those reports. There's two reports, the actual annual report and then a management letter where they try to explain what the report means. But Meredith Lipscomb and Will Dervis will be here August, whatever that date is.
All right.
That's the morning meeting. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any commissioners have any questions for the finance director? All right, hearing none, no citizen comments, no one signed up. All right. Next item are the minutes. Item number 1, July 12th, 2023, 9 a.m. regular meeting. If you all have had time to read those, is there any need for change? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. Item number 2, July 13th, 2023, 4 p.m. work session. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. All right, next item is public hearing. We removed item number 1. So item number 2 under public hearing is ordinance text amendment to amend the official zoning ordinance, Article 16, Section 16-2D, change meeting date of the Planning Commission Board from the 4th Monday of each month to the 3rd Monday of each month. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing for this?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. We are in public hearing at 6:13.
No.
Commissioner, one thing I was gonna ask you guys is what a part of this, I think it will make our advertising simpler. We can have you guys just kind of designate the second meeting of the month, your evening meeting for your public hearings. That way, I think you, said go ahead and advertise those, which is advertising the, the planning commission, and that way I think we can save some money and a little bit of time and confusion. We'll still provide you guys the documents, but at least I think it'll help streamline the process. So
We can have that tonight.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, so this ordinance here is the planning commission has all voted and they'd like to meet the 3rd Monday of each month. Instead of the 4th Monday, this will also give us time to advertise and have both meetings in the same month. So they still have the 5 days apart because they'd be a week apart. And that's the reason for this.
All right. Is there anyone signed up to speak? All right, any commissioners have any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to go out of public hearing? Have a motion to have a second. Motion and a second, all in favor? We are out of public hearing at 6:15. What's the pleasure of the board? Do I have a motion to accept the requested change from the fourth Monday to the third Monday?
We would recommend that with, there is a couple of typos we just need to get corrected before y'all sign.
So do I have a motion
Yes,
and allow the chair to sign?
yes.
All right. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carried. All right. Next item under public hearing is case number 2023-009, request to rezone 17.81 acres on the corner of Todd Road and Highway 27, Roosevelt Highway from RR to NHC. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing for case number 2023-009? So have a motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second, all in favor? We are in public hearing for case number 2023-009 at 6:16 p.m.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna, the applicant was supposed to be here. We don't know what's happened, why he's not. So we would ask that you continue this to next month, please.
Just table it.
Yeah, we'll see. Continue it. I would say, I would use that word, continue it, because you both have got the public hearing. And I would just continue it because the ordinance does require the applicant to be present.
Do I have a motion to go out of public hearing case number 2023-009? Have a motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second, all in favor? We are out of public hearing. Do we have a motion to continue case number 2023-009 until the fourth Tuesday meeting in?
Would they have to advertise that again?
No, we continue.
You guys.
We just continue, okay.
So do I have a motion for this case number? All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. Item number 3, really, on case number 2023-001, request from Carmen Diamond to amend her special request approval for the number of adult dogs and number of litters petitioner is able to have on her property. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing for case number 2023-001? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. We are in public hearing at 6:17 for case number 2023-001.
All right, you get, board members, you have the information in front of you about Mrs. Diamond's request. And you have my report in front of you as well for this special use modification. This is a modification of a special use that you guys had granted her last year. You had granted her 10 adult dogs and 2 litters. And she's become before the board tonight asking that you increase the adult dogs to 25 with an unlimited number of litters, as well as she will be training and boarding. I have done a lot of research. I have talked to both staff, previous staff members. I've talked to the animal control with animal control. I have actually talked to the Georgia Agricultural Department, and I have been to the property with Ms. Rosala and Mr. Emmett. And upon reviewing the previous request that she has done and my research, says the state does not recognize a hobby breeder, and a person does not have to register as a breeder unless the state has them having 2 or more, more than 2 litters a year. And that my recommendation is to allow for the modification of 20 adult dogs ages 6 months or older for boarding and or kenneling on premises at any times, and the number of litters be increased to 5. Mrs. Diamond has operated this business alone, is operating this business alone, and I feel like this is more than enough animals at one time for her to be able to handle. I would also ask that she place a plan in effect for if she was to get sick or injured or an evacuation due to weather or anything could be unknown, who would be the one to take care of these animals that she lives there alone and is the only one taking care of this. Her lot is also a very narrow, it's 8 acres, but it's only 200 foot wide all the way down. And about 4 acres of it is fenced in for allowing the dogs to run around if they want to. So there again, my recommendation is 20 adult dogs and 5 litters per year. And there is They are, the applicant and her attorney are both here.
Thank you. Ms. Diamond? And if you will, just state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Linda Dunleavy. I am the attorney for Ms. Diamond. Do you need an address or anything else? Okay. There you go. Okay, as I said, my name is Linda Dunleavy. I'm the attorney for Ms. Diamond. Ms. Diamond is here so she can answer any questions that you might have. I had prepared a PowerPoint. I'm not sure, Cassandra, how we're going to do that logistically. Do you have the slides?
Okay.
Maybe that's the best way to proceed. So as you can see from the title page, this is a request for modifications of conditions that were imposed by this board in 2019. The conditions were for a total of 10 adult dogs and 2 litters. Unfortunately, Ms. Diamond is finding this not to be at all sustainable. She's not a hobby breeder. I'm not sure where that, nomenclature crept in because I wasn't around in 2017 when this was approved. This is her business. This is her livelihood. And to have 10 adult dogs and being limited to 2 litters per year makes this economically just simply not sustainable. If you take a look at the second slide, you will see Ms. Diamond's home place. She resides there. She has approximately 8 1/3 acre. It's zoned LDR. And she has all of the state licenses necessary to be a kennel and a pet dealer from the state of Georgia. As you're looking at the house, some of the dogs are housed on occasion inside. The remainder of the dogs are housed at the rear of the house in a kennel, outdoor kennel. And there is plenty of open space for these dogs to run. If you turn to the third page of the PowerPoint, you'll see some photographs of the current operations. You'll see the indoor space and you'll see the outdoor kennels. The indoor space is sufficient for 9 dogs and the outdoor kennel is sufficient for 7. If you move to the next slide, you can see the open space behind the house. There is a completely fenced space to run in the front of the house, and as you progress towards the rear of the property, you see the dividing gate on the right-hand side, and that shows the rear open space. If you move to the next, you'll see some dogs playing in the open space. All of the dogs sort of sound like a public service announcement, and I don't mean to, but all of the dogs in this PowerPoint are dogs that are owned, have been owned or bred by Ms. Diamond. Now, as I said, the current limitations make this not at all a sustainable business for Ms. Diamond, unfortunately. And she has struggled with that. She has lost on the average over $10,000 per year since 2017, trying to adhere to these conditions. The expenses of maintaining adult dogs, the high food costs, the veterinary, the medical bills, the state licenses, the registration, the maintenance of the physical facility, the insurance and local licensing. As a general rule, when you're engaged in this kind of business, those type of expenses are paid for with new puppies. And if you're limited to 2 litters, that is a very thin margin. And why is it a thin margin? It's a thin margin because litter sizes are not predictable. German Shepherds on the average, according to Ms. Diamond's experience, may have up to 8 puppies per litter. However, they may also have 1 puppy. And this is exactly what unfortunately happened to Ms. Diamond in 2021. She had 2 litters. 1 litter had 1 puppy and the second litter had 2 puppies. The income from the sale of 3 puppies at that point in time would be a maximum of about $6,000 and far outstripped the expenses that she had put into these puppies. So that's why she's here. I know that there may be some frustration because she was here last year and she got turned down on exactly a similar request. She wouldn't keep coming back if this were not so important to her livelihood and the sustainability of her business. So if you go to the next page, what we have asked for are the following conditions. One, that the breeding and boarding of dogs obviously be permitted on the property, that there be no more than 25 adult dogs on the property at any given time. And keep in mind, this is 8+ acres. That adult be defined as 12 months. The only reason we put that in there is that's consistent with state law and state regulations. That's how adult dogs are defined. That there be no more than 8 breeding females at any time. We're asking for that out of recognition that this board and staff has expressed concern about limiting the numbers of, puppies on site at any given time. We're also asking that you impose a condition that there be no more than 3 litters of puppies at any time. Quite frankly, I'm not really sure about the litter rubric to condition this type of use, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. If you move to the next page, you'll see that she has neighbor support. She has letters of support from all of the 6 residential neighbors in the immediate vicinity on Roosevelt Highway. She's surrounded by large swaths of undeveloped property. You might be somewhat familiar with these undeveloped swaths. Across the road is a very large acreage of forest land conservation. Behind her is another large acreage owned by the Flying In Estates and a movie development land holding company. I don't know who they are, but these are all undeveloped swaths. And the same is true immediately to the south. And I've marked those on this map for you. If you flip to the next few pages, you will see customers and testimonials and support for Ms. Diamond and her request to expand. Ms. Diamond was in business, in this exact business for approximately 7 years before she moved to Meriwether County. She has loyal fans and loyal customer base. And why does she have this? If you take a look at the next page, I've taken some sample statements. Customers are saying, our experience with Carmen has been outstanding. Upon visiting the breeding facility, I was immediately struck by the immaculate conditions and the evident love and care that went into raising your dogs. Her property and kennels looked clean and well taken care of. Her knowledge, her kennel, her dogs, and the dogs she produces are nothing short of excellent. Should I decide I want another German Shepherd dog, I would only call Carmen. And so on and so on. She has a great reputation in her business. If you move to the next slide, you will see a sketch of what Carmen would like to do with this property, but she's been hamstrung because she doesn't have the cash flow generated from the business in order to further these future plans. She would like to renovate the playhouse to provide a dedicated space for moms and puppies when the puppies are old enough to be toilet trained. She would like to increase the space for the housing of her dogs. She would like to add an underground pool for a recreational amenity for the dogs. She would like to construct a classroom building on the rear lot. And that this layout shows conceptually where these improvements would be. In order to do this, she needs to invest a fairly large amount of money and generate cash flow from this business. To generate cash flow, she needs to be able to train and board dogs, which the current 10-dog limit does not allow. She needs to have more than 2 litters of puppies per year. Right now, she can't even break even, let alone generate cash flow for the types of expansion she would like to make. If you turn to the next page, you will see her proposal, photographs of the expanded housing space for dogs. And then if you turn to the final page, you will see her concept for having dog recreation in an above ground pool and the playhouse for puppies and mamas. Staff has recommended increasing the limit to 20 adult dogs. And please, Cassandra, don't take this personally. I absolutely appreciate that you have made that recommendation. And staff has also recommended 5 litters per year be the limit as opposed to the current 2. Let me talk to you about the problem once again with the 5 litter limit. Litter sizes are unpredictable. Once again, you could have 1 puppy per litter. You could have 8 puppies per litter. It's quite possible that the 5 litter limit could be sustainable. I asked Ms. Diamond before I came in here tonight, I said, how many puppies realistically, given what you want to do for this property, break even and then invest back into the property for these improvements, do you believe you need per year? And she said, well, to make a sufficient amount of money and reinvest in the property, I believe I need 40 puppies. Doing the math with 5 litters per year, if she's lucky and she has 8 puppies per litter, bingo, there's your 40 puppies. But if she has 2 puppies per litter, she's got 10 puppies and she's got a significant shortfall. In stewing over the staff's recommendation today, I am putting forward kind of a hybrid proposal that I hope you will consider. The 25 adult dog limit is still something that we believe is necessary in order for her to take on the boarding and training of dogs that she has sold to customers. The 5 litter, I keep wanting to say liters and I apologize. The 5 litters per year would be workable if she got 40 puppies out of those 5 litters. So I'm suggesting that instead of a straight 5 litter limit per year, perhaps this board would be willing to consider a 5 litter limit so long as those 5 litters produce 40 puppies. If they produce 40 puppies or more, she's done. She's done for the year. However, if those 5 litters produce less than 40 puppies, the condition would read that she would be able to continue having litters until such time as that 40 puppy limit was attained. I hope that you will give that serious consideration. I hope that this board wants to see businesses like Ms. Diamond's not only survive and hang on in Meriwether County, but actually thrive and prosper in Meriwether County and impose a formula or conditions that wouldn't enable that. And the current conditions do not allow that. So I have a motion that I put in the slide for you to consider with 5 conditions. Alternatively, if this board is inclined, I would request that you impose the 25 adult dog limit, impose the 5 litter limit, but modify that 5 litter limit such that essentially it's a 40 puppy minimum per year limit. If she has those 40 puppies within 5 litters, great. If not, she can continue having puppies any given year where she doesn't reach that 40 limit until she actually reaches or exceeds that 40 limit. I hope that's clear. Some people tell me I have a real tendency to overcomplicate things and I don't mean to. But we would ask that you approve this modification of conditions, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and so is Ms. Diamond.
Any commissioners have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have. How many breeding females?
With respect to the conditions that she has 2 breeding females right now. She's
No,
at
that you're asking for now.
8.
Hey, and like you just said, there's no guarantee you get 5 litter or 1 or 2. So
There's no guarantee that we will get a certain number of puppies per litter. With respect to the actual conception, there is a guarantee. They are, as I understand it, on the average, they would go into heat twice a year. However, they have to be bred. They have to, she has to make affirmative actions to get the females
Right,
impregnated.
you got 8 dogs, if you bred them twice a year and you didn't get that full litter that you're wanting, and got 1, got 2, and so forth, you still wouldn't reach 40 dogs. I got a lot of friends.
It's quite possible.
And if you can't get 40
Absolutely.
dogs, she's gonna lose money and go in the hole again.
Hopefully that will not be the situation. When you're limited to 2 litters and you get 3 dogs, that's a real problem. That's a real problem. We would prefer not to have litter limits, Mr. King, quite frankly,
Well,
but
if
I'm
you only got
offering
8
that
dogs,
as a
they can breed
compromise.
twice a year, that'd be the litter limit anyway.
They would get 16 litters.
Right, and if you got 2 or 3 dogs, you're still not gonna meet, you're not guaranteed to get 5 every time with German Shepherd. I got friends that do those.
That's absolutely right, Mr. King, but she has a much more of a fighting chance to have a sustainable business than she would with 2 litters per year.
The other question I got, and don't get me wrong, I'm asking questions because this other stuff could cause us as a board a problem. But I love my dog breeding friends, and I even had a German Shepherd flown in from up north. I paid $3,500 for that dog years ago. But the problem I'm looking at is the lot's 200 foot wide. What's the setback for housing animals? Because she's talking about building these structures, and they're all showed right on the line, and they can't be.
If you're, with a farm animal like horses or whatever, if you have a structure that has feed, and other materials that might, draw rodents or whatever, you're supposed to be 100 feet, I think it is, I can double check, but I think it's supposed to be 100 feet setback from the property. Right. Of course, that would be impossible with this because
That's
you don't
that's
have
what I'm
one
asking.
point in the.
Yeah, it's impossible to do that. So where would the, when she gets ready to do this, then they have to come back and ask the board to.
I think this ordinance is written down, I think that specifically addresses horses, cows, larger animals. I don't know that applies to the dogs.
It don't apply to dogs.
My
Apply to anything that has a smell, odor, and animal house.
Well, I mean, you could say that you think it would. I mean, one horse, I'd rather have one horse close to me than 40 dogs. But I would want to point out that this property is residential property.
Can I answer that question before you go into that?
No, we're actually speaking. We'll give you the time to speak at. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to mention it is residential property. It's in a residential neighborhood. And that's one of the reasons that the conditions up front were restricted, because technically you're supposed to have 5 dogs. I think a 5 dog is the maximum you can have a dog. So I can have 5 dogs. We actually had to rezone this property to be able to have it as an allowable use to be able to do this, which we tried to participate and help us time to get to that point. So we actually rezoned it. And then there was a special use with conditions that was placed on there. So at some point, we've got to come to a point where, hey, this is as big as this can grow. Because otherwise, if you really want to have things unlimited, you need to be in a commercial zone or industrial zone or something.
So that's not zone neighborhood commercial.
It's not zoned, it's zoned LDR, which is, I think, 5 acres. And then under LDR, you can have a kennel and things like under RD, which it was zoned, you could not.
And that's why we did the special use.
That's right. And so that's why there's some limited numbers on here. Not that we're trying to help her. And as far as the idea of having it with the number of litters, I was sitting there thinking, as I explained, that would be a good way, I think, to resolve it, is to say up to a certain number of litters a year. But if she doesn't get that, and she's looking for a certain number of dogs, and you guys are okay with that number, then I think we could do it, something to say up to 5 litters or a maximum of.
Yeah,
40 dogs.
but there's no way for anybody, we don't have time to monitor to know whether she's
No.
got 40 puppies or 80
No.
puppies or lucked up,
Right. There's no way.
Or if all of them had 5 apiece, that's 40, but they can breed twice and go other. And I ain't saying she wouldn't keep
Right.
this. I'm just saying. So who monitors and keeps up with that and reports?
Well,
Commissioner King, that actually ran us into a problem a couple of years ago. This is not part of the history that was laid out, but when Miss Diamond moved from Atlanta area, she made these requests. Unfortunately, her license doesn't transfer, so she was running it unlicensed by the state, and then it came to the attention of animal control that there were more dogs on the property than her special use allowed at the time. And so he did end up, I think they ended up indicating they were going to revoke the special use permit. And she was cited for being beyond her special use permit. It was worked out that she would put conditions on, there were some conditions placed on the quality of the outside kennels, I believe. I don't have the settlement agreement with me, and that she would have to get straight with the state. And then we being the county, would withdraw our citations and allow her to continue her special use as it then existed, which is how it currently exists today. But we did run into that problem because we did not know for a couple of years that she had more animals than what the special use was allowing at the time.
You were gonna respond, go ahead.
Yeah, I do want to respond to some of the points. My understanding is that the setback is not 100 feet, that it's 50 feet. She does have a 200-foot wide lot, so there is room in there for that 50-foot setback. The second thing with, and I don't know who this gentleman is, please forgive me, Michael,
My name's
like is the
Michael.
attorney.
Yes.
With respect to the citation issues, one of the reasons that she was over the number of dogs is that she had more dogs than 10 when the conditions were imposed and she was trying to rehouse those dogs. Some of them were senior.
They were
Excuse
not
me?
on the property at the time. They came to the property after we put those in place.
Okay,
And there were a lot of claims. She claimed a couple of people returned animals, et cetera, but it still left more animals than she was allowed to have under the.
which
the
goes to the
special use.
enforcement issue of 4 years ago. That's one of the reasons, Mr. King, that we're rather than suggesting that there be a litter number limiting her operations, that it be a limit on the number of breeding females, because you're absolutely right. You can't control the number of litters or the number of puppies in a litter. Whereas breeding females, they only go into heat twice a year. If you limit the number of the breeding females, you automatically limit the number of puppies that are going to be on the site at any given time. And the state monitors that. So when she gets subjected to state inspections, they will tell you how many adult male dogs are on the property, how many breeding females are on the property, and if any of the dogs are studs. Is that correct, Carmen? I don't want to misstate it. Okay. And so the state actually would monitor that.
All right, but I'm looking at some numbers here. See, the way it's worded, it says no more than 25 adult dogs on the property at any time. Okay. Is that 25 include the 8 breeding females?
Yes, it includes the 8 breeding females. It includes the studs. It includes any puppies that she's kept and grow up to adulthood and boarded dogs.
But since you're calling adult dog at the age of 12 months, if she was lucky, and I would love for her to do that if it's possible, but if she had 4 puppies and bred them unlimited, said unlimited, she does it twice a year. She's got 64 puppies there. And they're puppies, they're not adult dogs, the way this is wording, so she gets to have them there. So now you got 64 puppies and 25 adult dogs, you're up to 80-some dogs.
I'm not sure where the 64 puppies came from. My math is a little behind yours, sir, but
What's that?
I'm not sure where the 64 puppies came from. My math is a little.
Can breed twice a year. They could have anywhere.
Oh, I see what you're
They could
saying.
have
Yeah,
anywhere from 1 puppy to 5 puppies. So let's say it was a great year, you know, like a farmer had a great year, bumper crop.
right.
Got 4 puppies each time. That's 64 puppies. Now you got 80-some dogs out there. You just don't classify them as adult because they're not a year old, but they can still be out there trying to be sold up to 6, 7, 8 months old. So now you got 80 dogs out there.
The standard flow of this operation, from what I understand from Ms. Diamond, is that once a female dog's pregnancy is confirmed, then the marketing begins for the puppy. She takes deposits for the puppies before they are even born. Once the puppies are born, obviously under Georgia law, you can't just farm them off as soon as they're born. But as a general rule, they would be gone within 8 weeks of birth. In some instances, Ms. Diamond tells me that she might choose to keep a puppy and raise it to adulthood, but normally they would be gone within 8 weeks, maximum 12 weeks.
Can I ask a question? We stated that this is zone rural residential.
Low density, but
Slow down.
With a special use, so it's not commercial, it's not legally commercial.
No.
it's not-
no.
Nope.
So essentially, you're asking the board to allow you to operate a commercial industrial business in a non-commercial industrial areas by way of altering the special use policy.
We went through the special use permit process back in 2017, and the special use that was granted was for a kennel and for boarding. Now, the limitations on that made it extremely difficult as I had told you, for the business to be economically viable, but a kennel under your ordinance is defined to essentially be a business. So your zoning ordinance allows a business in the low density residential if you get a special use permit, which Ms. Diamond has. But we are asking to increase the numbers, yes.
I understand that, and that's, I understand why you're asking, but that's also why we have those restrictions on that special use in those areas. Is to not have a precedent where not anyone can grow any kind of commercial or industrial business anywhere in the county. It's infringing on other property.
Well, they can only do that if it doesn't have a negative impact on the, public health, safety and welfare. And the neighbors have all submitted letters of support. All of the residential neighbors who are on this stretch of Roosevelt Highway have submitted letters of support. Ms. Diamond went out and actually asked them for those letters of support. Some of these neighbors said, gee golly, we didn't even know you were here. And so that's the whole point behind, as I understand it, asking for a special use permit. If somebody can come in and demonstrate that they don't have a negative impact on the public health, safety and welfare of the adjoining residents, then that is the type of business or the type of use that a special use permit is designed for. Exactly.
In my opinion, and I'm all in favor of people being able to do what you like to do with the property or impact your neighbor. So I'm in support of finding out what can we do. I'd like, before I can make a decision, what is the setback rule for this before I can even decide?
And there is an ordinance that Senate just gave me, and I can go get her code book, but it says that farm-based business is supposed to be 100 feet from any residential zone property. Yeah, so this would be allowable. And I guess to the point of being able,
it could be, it's supposed to be 100 feet away. How can she be 100 feet away? That's
right. Yeah.
So it's not allowable in this case.
Right. And from there, I will say this, the neighbors are fine, and I think she does a great job. Neighbors are fine.
That was
But if you keep growing it, there'll come a point in time when the neighbors may object. If you got 20 dogs and 5 litters, they may be fine. If you increase it to $100, 25 litters, then all of a sudden what was fine last year wouldn't be necessarily fine. So I'm just throwing.
I also think that there are ordinances in place in any county for a reason. It may not suit every single citizen, but we have to look at it as a whole. So there are ordinances in place for that particular area, in my personal opinion, and we did a special use for that. And I've been here both times, now the third time that Ms. Diamond has come before us to request this. And I don't know if anything has really changed in my mind as to that, because if we open up anything that is in this particular type of zoning and allow this, and we can have, and Ms. Diamond does a good job and her neighbors are fine with it. But if we open this up and we do a special use to increase it to this amount, where we only allow our residents to have a minimum or a maximum of 5 animals on there for their own private pets, then I think we're opening it up to have people come into this county and request these special use situations for their own private property, and it's going to cause issues in different areas of the county.
Let me say 2 things about that. I'm a zoning lawyer. I've been doing this for 30 years.
Okay.
Special use permits are exactly what they sound like. They are sort of special exceptions that
We
are
have
to
an
be
attorney that tells us that.
yeah, I know, but are to be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
And that's kind of getting to your
But if you
point
open,
about opening up
if
the,
you open one up, then what is to say that someone else comes before us? It puts this government and this county into a situation for a lawsuit, because if we allow for one and it is for each situation, yes, it does. It opens us up to that.
not really, because you have to consider these cases on a case-by-case basis. If somebody else comes in and can demonstrate what Ms. Diamond demonstrates, that she is not having adverse impacts on her neighbors, then sir, I would agree with you, but you have to look at each individual
Well, I do
case
have another
separately.
question. Here it says that there are 9 kennels for indoor and 7 kennels for outdoor. There's 16.
Correct.
Where would the other 9 be?
The expansion would be very, very slow. She would not be housing more dogs than she had individual crates or kennels for at any given time. She just hasn't been free to invest in this property because of the limitations. She probably will not get up to 25 adult dogs for a couple of years. And she has to house them under state regulations, and meet the state regulations. She's going to have to invest in the, increased infrastructure before she can house those individual dogs.
All right, I got it.
Any commissioners have any questions?
Yeah, first, since you was here, was the condition she has now, is that what y'all put on it or she requested?
No, she requested more and I can't remember, but what is in place now was the original special use that we put in place. When she came back the second time, we voted to continue with the original special use, which is what is still in place right now.
And I do think, Mr. Chairman, that when she initially came, I think we gave her what she requested over the first, I think we did, I'm not positive.
2017.
Right, and I think it was also, she had requested it for recreation or some other verbiage. We have to go back and look at it.
I believe she indicated in 2017 that she was only expecting to do this as a hobby. I
Right.
think that's where you got the language of a hobby breeder
And it's
initially, but we were not here at that time, so.
All right. Well, let me ask you this here. Right now, is there a separate septic system installed right now for all the dogs where everything washes to a certain pipe and goes into a septic system on the property?
I don't believe so.
Because I do a lot of dog kennels. Under state regulations, once you get to a certain number, you have to have that. All right, I'm not wanting to get into her personal finances, that's not my business, but I would like to try to understand how this is going to work. You stated earlier, she needs at least 25 dogs and luckily so many litters per year to be a profitable business.
Ultimately,
Okay,
yes.
okay. But then you state she's not gonna be able to get the 25 dogs for a couple of years or so. Okay. You stated she's lost $70,000 since 2017. All these things she's gonna do on the property and that septic system is gonna cost a lot of money up front. So even if the county, I'm telling you, in my opinion, even if we was gonna increase or do this and so forth, I would want it under the stipulations after all that's been done.
I'm sorry, say that again.
In other words, if I was going to vote to increase the dog amount and the litter amount, I would put a stipulation in is when this beautiful picture that's taken off the internet and the pool that's taken off the internet, when all of this is in place, is when we would allow the dogs to come in. I would put a stipulation, others, if I'm just talking, if we was tonight, I don't know what we're gonna do, but if we was tonight, go, okay, we're not doing 25, we'll do the recognition to 20, we'll do 8 litters, 10 litters, whatever, so forth. I would put it, if I motioned it, I would put that would take place after inspection of the property to house and do what she promised she was gonna do.
By the state or by the local officials? Because I mean, the
So by
state
what
would
you just
require
shared from
her.
this little picture thing of this nice, in fact, I like the idea they did it about a container, that's pretty cool. But to get that done and the septic system done, and then you gotta have cooling in that building, it cannot.
Yeah,
be hot.
she's aware of that. It has to be
Like I said, I do
between
a lot.
45 and 85.
If I had to guess this off the top of my head right there, you're gonna spend 60,000 plus quick, real quick. So instead of me sitting there going, yeah, you can have all that, I look for you to getting that done. We find out 3 years, 4 years from now, none of that got done, but there's plenty of dogs out there. If you're gonna do it for a business, you gotta invest in the business and spend the money. That I know, I've been in one for 41 years. So what I'm saying is, she's not gonna have, you needs 25 dogs and so many litters to make a profitable business based on all this she's gonna do.
To make a going concern for the future, she cannot build up to 25 dogs and that many litters immediately for exactly the reason that you've
So
identified.
she's
She's
not-
going to have to be incremental.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand how will she continue losing large amounts of money for the next few years before start.
I think she'll be able to take on more dogs for boarding.
But she has
She is
to have
not-
a facility for.
She's not at that capacity yet. She has additional kennel space.
Okay.
Remember, she's got a 10-dog limit. She's got 16
All right,
kennels.
so to clarify myself, then I would state that to go to that limit, those conditions that were proposed to us that looks great and wonderful would need to be in place.
How many dogs are currently on site?
Nine.
Ms. Diamond?
Nine.
Yes.
Any other commission?
I wish our 8 acres was a big square, which we
Right.
really had more room. That really kind of hinders, ties our hands a little bit, being 200-foot wide lot.
I'm curious about the law that's being,
I went out and looked at the property, and on both sides of the property, nothing.
Yeah, now. But if it's sold and developed,
And Mr. King, just that
And
100,
I think the real issue here is, in my opinion, is litters, not dogs, right now.
well, that's what I was
Is that
saying.
correct?
for Ms. Diamond, that's the
Litters
issue?
now, not dogs.
She
I
would
mean,
like,
it'd Take one of the two, if we was going, if you had to, if we could just increase the litter some, would she be satisfied with that?
it would be better than her current situation because the litters are that's where the most of the money is made. Yes, that's a fair assessment. However, the 10-dog limit, when you've got 9 dogs, you can't, what she does is she sells puppies. She has very loyal customers. A lot of those customers oftentimes want her to train and to board the dog at the same time. And if you only have 1 kennel space, that really,
Right, but like.
well, she's got additional kennel spaces, but just,
Mr. King says, once, if she gets a few and she give her some more litters, maybe she can start making money and make progress towards upgrading her facilities to house those extra dogs. Good point.
that's absolutely her plan.
Because really what you just said just then, made another light go off. I thought we were all focusing on her having a breeding facility and sell puppies. But now she wants to be able to bring the dogs back and do boarding and so forth. And the other surrounding counties, when you start getting into the boarding end of it and not just the breeding end of it, that opens up a whole lot more.
She would not be boarding for the general public. It would just be for those dogs that she had sold to owners that she'd bred and bring them back because they oftentimes want the boarding and the training. I'm sure you must be familiar with that model.
I'm very familiar,
Yeah.
but she's not in the training business. She said the puppies are gone within 6 to 8 to 6 to 8 weeks.
She does do training. She's won all kinds of awards in the Schutzhound.
So she is boarding
competition.
horses, being boarding dogs to train.
She has in the past. I think she has taken on the occasional 1 or 2 since she's been in Meriwether County.
I
But
think
these-
that was in the original special use, right, that you could up to, yeah.
Yeah.
kennel, the way kennel's defined is it includes boarding, if I
Yeah,
recall
it
correctly.
does. It's really the 10-dog limit that,
And to speak to that 100-yard setback that was mentioned earlier, that was for a farm business. That farm business is only for agriculture and RR zoning. That's not what this is. This is the limited, the LDR zoning, which does have a special use for quote kennels, which does allow for boarding and for breeding. But again, I don't know if there are any specific setbacks that would apply to that. I think
the only setbacks are the ones related to farms. You know, and I do think you got to have setbacks from if it enjoys residential or buffers. In this particular case, the ordinance has been approved for that.
Right.
So the setbacks, I think once you got there were certainly important.
Well, the sideline setback is for just a building is what? 30 foot?
On LDR,
Sideline.
Like that building, I sent that guy there the other day to see you. You said make sure he stays 30 foot off the line.
LDR, I think.
I'll look at that. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
it would
like,
be an
it's
accessory structure setback, right?
If you're showing a building on this side and showing a building on this side, and you gotta come in 30 foot, you just lost 60 of 200.
Right.
So you're getting,
ODR, the side yard, it's 25 and 3 yards. You got 40.
Okay, so she'd lose 50 feet on either side, but she'd still be left with 150 width. Which for these structures that she's proposing are modest. They are not large structures.
but isn't the bread and butter of this whole thing is to get the puppies, sell the puppies?
That's the bread and the butter, but you know,
But Colin's saying, I'd feel fine with having her have more litters and not go more dogs, because that's where the money's at.
she would very much like the opportunity to offer that as an adjunct to her customers. It's very difficult under the current 10-dog limitation. She's got 2 breeding females, she's got 2 studs, and then she's got old dogs that if she wasn't such a large-hearted woman, she could get rid of, but she does not want to get rid of those old dogs because they're very difficult to home, to rehouse.
Ms. Diamond, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
What's the maximum puppies you've had over the last 3 years per litter? What's the maximum? 8?
Over the past 3 years, 8 is reasonable, but over the past 3 years, it has not been that high.
Like per female?
Yeah, 6 to 8 is about normal range for me. You know, maybe I could have a female that does 10, but that's not like consistent every time. It's not normal. 6 to 8 is about a good window, I would say.
You're saying you need 40 per year?
I would request that, sir, yes.
I'm just trying to figure it out. I don't feel that great today, so I'm sorry if I'm not interacting that well, but I'm just trying to figure out numbers in my head, so thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Ms. Diamond?
Yes, one of the things you mentioned to us when we were up there visiting all was the fact that was it 21 or
Yes.
22, and you actually only had like 3 puppies.
Yes, ma'am. One litter was 1 puppy and she had to have a C-section, which was about $1,800. The other litter was 4 puppies. I kept the 1 puppy and 1 puppy from the 4 litter. 4 puppy litter, and I sold 3 at $1,500 per puppy. They were sold right when they were born to previous puppy buyers. So at 8 weeks, they were gone, and the mother of one of the litters, I rehomed to a previous puppy buyer as well. So when the puppies were 8 weeks, that client came and picked up the mother, and then the 3 puppies went home as well.
Okay. I don't know if that helps clarify anything, not but just when we were up there visiting the property, she was telling us about the past 3 years. I think that's, they get touched and heartstrings, so yeah, that there's no guarantee when it comes to the number of puppies, and then what you're in encounter with the cost associated with that. So, want to let y'all know.
So the facility that's there now,
Mhm.
according to state regulations and whether our animal control, how many can you house right now? Legally
mean in that
and
container?
according to all regulations.
No, I think are you talking about like the outdoor kennel plus the
Talking about-
indoor?
Your facility right now, without spending money and
Oh.
building anything,
I can house 10 I have 2 storage rooms in the house with crates. I can house 10 inside. I have 7 outdoor kennel runs. I don't, because my breed barks, I don't leave them outside in those kennels full time, which would encourage barking. So I keep them, in crates part-time, and they rotate throughout the day in the yard, and that keeps the barking very minimal.
so what I'm saying is, even if we increase it, you don't have room for more dogs until you actually build something.
That's why I would have to grow slowly so that I can invest the money for additional space to keep that indoor outdoor accommodation.
She wants to fix that.
The storage container, correct?
This,
She has purchased the storage container that are in your
Yes.
pictures.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
That container though will have to be the side yard.
No. 7.
It does. It's at least where it is right now, and of course it can be moved. It's
Right.
kind of portable.
and it does have out air conditioning, yes, the drainage that he's talked about and the installation. Correct.
If you're on a bigger tract of land, this is kind of how this plays in. It's an allowable use. If you're on like a 81, which is 25 acres or get into the LDR, it's a special use. And I think that gives you guys the opportunity to take a look at its size and consideration. So that's the way that's going. My thoughts on it would be, guys, to say what you feel like you live with the dogs and maybe make some adjustments where we could take into account if the litters are smaller. But we'll have to come to a point where we have to stop, or it will be to a point where we will have neighbors complain. And then it may be too late once you go to that.
That's my concern is that how do we come to a reasonable number that helps her accomplish her goals?
Yeah.
That doesn't put us in a compromising position for the LDR special use. It has to stop. We can't keep coming back and doing it and get out of the conversation. I'm trying to help you how to run a business. That's not our job. But at some point, that would be your job, is how you maintain and grow your business without us abusing the special use permit.
If the business grows to a point where it's like super big, and for her sake, I would hope that, and maybe at that point in time, that's not the right location.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, you know,
That's like any business, yeah.
I think that's what we got signed for. What was your recommendation, Simon?
20 adult dogs and 5 litters. With a plan also of what would happen if she could not take care of those animals.
Well, I make a motion, we accept.
No, we're in a public hearing. We'll come out.
Huh?
You haven't exited the public hearing.
I know. But I have one more question for Ms. Diamond. How many breedable females do you currently have?
2, I have 2,
Okay.
just 2 females.
I'll tell you my craziness is that I was thinking if we left it where it was, but increase that litter amount to see how that would do for the next 12 months. And then, I mean, because you could, with what we have in place right now, 10 dogs, it doesn't say you can only have 2 females. So you could have another breedable female or 2 more breedable females, as long as you hit that, didn't surpass that 10. If the litter amount was increased past the 2 that currently is there, that would allow more for you, hopefully. So that's just my thinking right now, but I don't know.
Or we could do like Dean said, you can only have 17 dogs, so we could raise it to 15 instead of 20.
Well, that, and I was gonna ask, can a stipulation like this be put in there? Is unlimited litters with the dog she has now, just because you only have 2 females, that's your choice. You're allowed to have up to how many dogs right now? 10. So you could have 3 studs and have 7
Well,
females.
she could have 10 females.
Yeah.
she's got 9 dogs on site already, sir.
What's that?
She's got 9 dogs on site already.
Yeah,
2
but only 2 of them produce puppies.
that's true.
Well, we're
That's
saying
true.
with
So
the
the others ain't making no money. But what I was gonna ask, could a stipulation like this be here? If we did unlimited litters, so she's making a profit, making money. At the time she can upgrade the facility to move forward, that's when we could consider upgrading the amount of dollars.
I guess the question is, why do you want us to keep coming back? This is incredibly expensive.
No, I wouldn't,
and time
if it
consuming.
was me, my stipulation would be, I'm just giving you an example. I'd make a motion to give her unlimited litter.
Okay,
At the time that she chose to the county for inspection, that she has these kennels done, the sewer system put in, the septic system put in, and can now house 20 dogs. At that time, it would be permitted.
would that
Now, I may
would
be
she
wrong.
necessarily have to
Yeah.
have the multiple layers? Because she has to show the state that too.
Said what?
Would she have to have under your scenario? And I'm not saying we agree or disagree. I'm trying to understand it. So certainly she cannot house additional dogs ever beyond what she has housing capabilities for under state regulations. So she wants to, right now she's got room for 17. If she wants to go to 20 and she has 3 units in this trailer that she's working on online, why would it not be sufficient just to have the state authorize that? They do that already. You're suggesting an additional layer that she come back to the county for that.
I'm suggesting because I don't want just all of a sudden down the line, there's just a bunch of outdoor pens to get 20 dogs. When what's presented to us today was it's gonna be this top-notch facility. So see, if we just say, okay, 20 dogs and unlimited litters, she can just put chain link pins down through there and have 20 dogs and don't ever have to spend the money to do that and don't have to put the pool in. We're being presented, or I'm being
I see
presented
what you're saying.
that she is going to really invest into this too, if we trust into her and give an increase. But I've seen, not as a commissioner, but in life, so many people say they're gonna do this, but they don't ever do it.
Okay,
I've seen other dog people do it. I ain't saying she would.
my client might shoot me for this, but she's now got sufficient housing for 17 dogs.
Yeah.
The state has already authorized that. Is there any reason this commission couldn't say, we're going to increase it to the 17 dogs, 17 housing units that she has and unlimited litters?
Okay,
let me
so
say this.
if she's got 17 dogs, she's been losing money every year, why we only got 2 females having puppies?
But she doesn't have
She
17
doesn't.
dogs.
I mean, but-
She's
but
only
she's
got 9.
Yeah, oh yeah, but okay, but I'm saying, why, if the females wants to make you money, why haven't, there's already been more females brought in for breeding?
That's not our business.
She can only have 10 dogs a year.
No, I know, you know, that's true, I wouldn't put it that way, I'm just saying, if she's struggling, I think I'd want more puppies.
You only have 2 litters.
Yeah, I would be very cautious with the unlimited anything.
Right.
Cause it could get out of control. I'll tell you how, and I'm not saying she would do this.
Right.
But the dogs that we're limiting are adult dogs, they're not puppies. Okay, so we say you can have 10 dogs, 17 dogs, whatever, they're adult dogs. The adult dogs, I think we've defined adult dogs as 6 months and older. But I think that in some places, I think I heard them say earlier, they were defined them as 12 months. So you could have a whole bunch of puppies. I mean, puppies everywhere,
Mhm.
and still not get over that
That's what I said,
10 dogs, yeah. So I would say that back to where you guys started, I would say limit it to the number of puppies per total litter for the year. And put a number on that.
Well, here's what I want to say. What is in place right now and what I have heard from the beginning of the conversation is that she needs roughly 40 puppies per year to be able to not just make a profit, but to be able to.
Right,
do
to
these
fund
additional things.
these things that she wants
So
to do.
what we have in place right now with the special use actually fits that, except for we have limited the number of litters. So hear me out. We said you can have 10 adult dogs. That's her choice. She has 2 females on there at this point. It was our stipulation that we put a 2 litter per year limit on puppies. So when I hear 40 puppies, what we have in place as far as adult dogs is sufficient. If we did something with the puppy litters that allowed more of that, we don't need to expand it to 25. Because what originally came before us today is saying she really needs 40. Well, you can do that with 8 females easily in 5 litters. So it's really, is it necessary to have 25 dogs and increase the litters, or is it fine to where we are with what we have in place?
I think it is a little bit in our business model,
Right.
and if I buy a puppy, and then now I want her to train it. Our classification is gonna be, that's an adult dog while she's training it, and she could be over
Yeah.
the limit. Even though it was a puppy that we agreed to let her have and go, and that's where the conflict is.
Yeah.
I normally don't get involved like negotiation, but I do like this discussion. So I just talked with Ms. Diamond, you know, she would love it if you could take a look at this and allow 40 puppies annually, maximum 40 puppies annually. And increase the dog limit, the adult dog limit to 20 dogs as recommended by staff.
Let's see, if we do 40 puppies and we put that in there, then that opens it up. There may be 20 females that need to have 1 puppy apiece, and we're still not even there. So I think what we need to do is put in the number of litters per year that can have, because if she has 5 litters at 8, that's 40.
That's right.
So if she has 10 female dogs and they have 8 each, that's 8. So where?
Well,
do
that
get
would,
the meat?
we would not, that would not include, that would eliminate the 8, you know, female breeding dogs as a
But it wouldn't if
condition.
we opened it up to unlimited breeding.
Well, no,
I think
because
it's
I
a
mean,
mix.
she has
Right.
control over whether the pregnancy
Somebody-
goes full term. And, you know, so once she reaches that 40 puppy limit annually, if she does, and there may be years where she won't, because you're absolutely right, you know, she may not have the breeding capacity, or the litter may be small in any given year. But once she reaches that 40 puppy limit in any given year, she cannot breed any of the females that she has, no matter how many females she has, period.
I don't think you really care how many she litters and puppies she breeds and sells, it's a matter of how many there are at one point in time. If you went with the 20 adult dogs and we classify adult as 6 months or older, if you're breeding puppies and after 8 weeks, it's 2 months, by 6 months, you had it sold and you didn't have a buyer, you shouldn't have bred in the first place. 6 months is an adult dog. 40 puppies, so if we say no more than 20 adult dogs over 6 months of age, and no more than 40 puppies, 6 months or less, at any time, she's got what she needs.
She's okay with that.
It's still the potential of 60 dogs at one time in that property.
Easily.
But that's up to her to manage how many litters she needs to get there. We put a limit on how many dogs are on that
But
property.
it's really up to us legally to limit what can be in a certain area.
Yeah, but that's what we.
Well, I mean, we did offer another condition in terms of the number of litters that she could have on the property at any given time. If you want to do the 40 puppies and there won't be any more than 3 litters on the property at any given time, we could live with that too. Do you see what I'm doing? Because I do understand, you're not going to have 40 puppies on the property at any given time because Carmen's smarter than to have all of her female dogs go into heat and produce puppies at the same time. That's not a business model that works, and it's exhausting.
Mr. Cobb?
Why do you have only just 2
Well, I
females?
mean, you know, my mother, if they have 8, that's 40. Right. But if they have 6, that's 30. So, if she had, so if you put it at 40 puppies, she would have to have what, 7 litters to get 42 if she had 8. I mean, they had 6 per litter.
Well, let's,
So,
Michael, what are your thoughts?
I
Legally
think
for
they need
us.
to do litters in.
Look, I don't get,
Puppies.
I don't get to make policy decisions. That's
You don't
for
get to
the
make
board.
policy
I would just remind the board that once you have made a determination on special use, you can't take it back.
Right.
It's gonna be on that property
Right.
until the end of days. All right. So, that's why I think the previous board was conservative. That and the fact that it was represented that she was planning to do this as a hobby. So initially, and so, I just want the board to keep in mind that, if you extend beyond, you gotta be happy with that because her neighbors currently might not be her neighbors next time. And if there's 60 dogs out there and you have a new neighbor and y'all are the ones that have to deal with the phone calls. So.
And that's why I made the statement that you questioned about why would we want you to come back every year. That was exactly my
I know you like seeing her face. We
Yeah,
would
it's always
be
pleasant.
more than willing if this board were to consider it, have the 40 puppy maximum or the 40, it's the 40 puppy minimum, quite honestly, per year. And the 20 adult dogs, and we would come back in another year, 18 months, and you could reevaluate how that's working.
I can say, if I'm here in a year, 12 months, you come back, want to extend more special use.
No, I'm just saying to see that there's not a reason to lower the puppy limit and the adult dog limit to make sure that she's, that this is working well.
Well, they won't be able to lower. Once they give it to you, you won't be able to lower.
Right.
And that's why I think you need to go in increments and not
Yes, me
have
too.
it in some defined.
That's what I was trying to say without saying it.
That's kind of around what I was saying a while ago about the step.
Right.
But I'm gonna ask this again, because it really bothers me. If she's been losing money and she's allowed to have 9 dogs or 10. And puppies is what brings your money in. Why has she been at 2 females only?
There's also a restriction on only 2 litters per year. That's a restriction on 2 litters.
So
You can only have
You can only have 2 litters per year.
2 litters per dog.
No,
No,
Oh.
per year total, no matter how many breeding females she has.
Females, but
She can have 8
Only two.
females, but
My
they have to
apologies,
divide
I
it.
thought 2 litters was each dog could have 2 litters,
No.
which that would be 4 litters.
We'd be okay with that,
So-
right?
well, I think we are having a lot of discussion. Some of it's out here, some of it's over here.
Yeah.
We need to bring it here. So
Someone else aside of
And-
me.
is there anything else that you need to present on Ms. Carmen's side?
No, I just hope that this has been an informative discussion for everybody and that there at least is an understanding that she cannot continue under the current restrictions. They're just too restrictive for a sustainable business. I don't know where the idea came that she was a hobby breeder. She never has been. This is her business. This is her life.
It's in our minutes.
It's because it's what's in the minutes. That's what she represented she was doing when she first moved over here. I mean.
Thank you. We have someone else signed up to speak. Sir,
Yeah,
if you'll come up to the podium,
okay,
state your name.
yeah, I'm a neighbor of her. And I got some piece of property there. And I'd like to, if you guys, to have her, okay her, to have the puppies over there, a lot of them. It don't matter to me, but I need to have some privacy fence, if that's possible.
Like a tree line or something?
No.
Fence.
Board,
Okay, board.
yeah,
Gotcha.
solid. Not necessarily all the way down to acre, but partially where they have the dogs.
Okay.
That would keep us from, when we go down there, coming down through the to our properties, to clean, to take care of places, and we don't want to have to deal with the dogs.
So can you show us where you live with this? Last year. This is back. If you look at this problem, so.
Okay.
Yeah, on that side.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions? Statements? Hearing none, do I have a motion to come out of public hearing? So have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. We are out of public hearing at 7:21.
Answer the issue with number of puppies, that you might do something like what you might say up to 8 litters maximum, but only the maximum of $40. So if you had to achieve that in 5 litters, that's what you have. To achieve it in 6, that's what you have. But you couldn't have more than 8 litters, or it could be 7 or 6, whatever you guys call it. But it would give her the opportunity to get to that magic 40, but she couldn't keep going over that. So instead of maximum, 6 litters, I think she's only got 2 now, maximum 6 litters, but no more than 40 puppies.
But
I think-
would do that if you go, you can't have more than 40 puppies. You can't tell the dog how many puppies it's allowed to have. So what do you do when you got 45 puppies out there?
Yeah.
You're gonna get mad and write a
I
citation
think you,
for the
I
dog.
think you would be inclusive of the last,
6 litters.
you would be inclusive of the last litter if you did it that way. And I think what the Administrator Gay is trying to say is it's the first in time, whether she. Think of it as like you're getting your oil changed. You getting to the 5,000 miles, or you getting to the month, the 3-month window. Which comes first, and that's when it ends. So for instance, if she hit 40 puppies first,
Right.
then she gets no more. If she hit litter number X first, then she would get no more. If she hit 42 puppies and before litter number X, then she would get no more, and it would be inclusive of that last litter.
So she can have 5 breedable females.
You give her up to 40 puppies, well, she has 5 litters and she has 39 puppies, so then she gets another litter.
Under that, she would get one more litter if you gave her 6 litters and she was at 5 or 5 and 4, or sorry, if you gave her 6 and 40, and she was at 5 and 39, she would get another litter. And if she hit 47, then she got 47 for that year.
Yeah.
But 6, you could just say 6.
I guess I see litters.
No, I don't think so.
That way, if 8 is being 48, if there's 5 and 8, 40.
30.
So the focus is on the number of puppies.
17. No, no.
His thought on dog groups on that would limit you to six litters. And, they're not all.
I think it's- Well, I think.
And, you know, Ms. Sharp would also like y'all to remind y'all that she would like some kind of plan in place in the event of an emergency, since there's no one else to take care of these dogs except for Ms. Diamond.
Exactly.
But I don't think the number of dogs is the issue. I think the number of allowable puppies is the issue. Because I mean, you could have, like I said earlier, you could have 20 female dogs, but if you limited it to 2, couldn't you? But if you put a limit of 40 total puppies, then that's still doable within 4 or 5 females. So I don't think the issue is the number of dogs on the premises, other than outside of her wanting to breed additional. But to make the money, as stated at the beginning, it's the puppies, not the dogs.
So that was the question I asked. The reason they wanted the more dogs was the dogs and the litter is one thing, but to have room for boarding too. That's where the 25 comes in, not for breeding, but to have other dogs on the property. That's why I was questioning that while ago, are we gonna be in breeding business or the boarding business? Or if you're doing both, now you're really getting large.
But you can't have that.
But if you're doing it just for breeding, you're absolutely right. The dog number is fine right now. He just needs more females. That's 6 litters total a year. She could maybe make it. Maybe not, I don't know.
Right, that's what.
Right now, we're getting to.
So if you gave her, like she had 17 kids, out, give her that many of litters. It's not yours, but again, we don't open up the door and just like, hey, do whatever we'll do.
One other question.
Yes.
How many animals per year do you bring back to train? Roughly, just
Well, right now I haven't been able to do that many.
how many would you think?
I've done just a handful, no more than 5. Yeah, and they're with me for 2 or 3 weeks at a time and then they leave.
And we are willing to stipulate that, you know, she wouldn't board dogs that she had not bred.
Yeah.
To alleviate the concern that Mr. King, I think, is expressing, that somehow we become this massive boarding and breeding facility. That's
Well, it's not a
her.
concern. I just want to know that she's in a breeding
That's
business
not
or a
her-
boarding
that's
business.
not her
But
idea.
this boarding stuff, they're great. People are getting into it. And I mean, they're turning houses into boarding rooms, you know, it's awesome.
Yeah,
But-
I hear you.
So
I understand.
Said you would recommend 20 adult dogs, 6+ age over, and 5 litters.
I was. But if they were to do 6 litters or 40 puppies, whichever is first, would have been per in annually. I would walk for the 4.
Or we got put a limit. I don't remember a dogs on premises.
Listen, here's what I'm thinking. That's why I asked Ms. Diamond this question. 5 dogs per year you bring in and train. 10 dogs that you have currently would more than meet what you needed as far as, or that you're requesting for puppies to get your 40. My actual thinking is to allow you a set number such as 10 dogs of your own on the property at one time, with somehow allowing for an increased number of puppies per year. And then some other stipulation added to not allow more than 5 dogs to be kenneled throughout the year for training purposes. That's just my thing.
15 dogs.
Mhm.
So 15.
It would be no more than 15 at,
One given time.
no, at, yeah,
I think,
but 10 of.
I think
10 private-
if you're
10
gonna
of-
consider that,
No more than 15 adult dogs on the premises at one time and get 6 litters of puppies.
I think if you're considering, I think if you're considering breaking it down the way that you're talking about, she would have to have on the premises as well, the paperwork indicating those 5 dogs were owned by others and being, you know, boarded for the purposes of training.
What
et
I'm
cetera.
trying to do is. give
Because
her the
otherwise,
option
it's
of-
it's very hard for enforcement to figure out what dog belongs to who. if
Well, it
you don't
is,
have-
but I'm also trying to give her the opportunity to have her 10 dogs.
Correct.
Increase the amount of puppies per year, but also to be able to allow her to do her kennel and training business. That's my thought process.
And I'm just saying for you to keep in mind, I would put, if you're gonna make that a stipulation, I would have that she's required to have the appropriate paperwork to prove the ownership of those dogs, of all dogs on her property at any given point in
So no
time.
more than 15 at one point, the 10 being her private, no more than 5 kenneled at one time. I don't know. I'm not making the decision. Y'all make it.
I mean, I think if you did go with 15, and see, that gives her the flexibility, if she's got her kids, dogs first, and she can read through,
She can board
bring
five.
in
Well,
trade.
it gives her the opportunity to board.
And if she's only got 8 dogs, she can board
Yeah.
2 more.
And then if you have 6 puppies, I mean, 6 litters, yeah, 6 litters, I mean, that's.
Can we stay away from the
Two-
litters?
three-
That's really hard.
But I mean, I would just say 15 dollars. I mean, I don't care if she don't have a 7, if she got 7, she can get, train 8. But if she got 12, she can train 3. I don't, too hard to keep up with all that stuff. I just say no more than 15 adult dogs on
I
the
don't,
property at one time.
I don't think you need to have that other, you're adding, and this is, it's a nice suggestion, but I don't think this board needs to say, oh, with the conditions alone you provide us, who's gonna take care of all this if something happens. There's enough, you're involved with animals. There's enough, if something was ever happened to where she couldn't handle it and take care of it. That's why we have animal
It's
control
gonna-
come in.
Yeah, and going back to the history on that, there was a period of time where animal control had difficulty finding Miss Diamond and had legitimate concerns that the dogs were not being cared for
Right.
at the time. And so I think I think it's a wise idea to have a strategic plan in place in the event of her incapacitation. I mean, I'm not talking about Miss Diamond going out of town. I'm talking about Miss Diamond having a stroke.
Right.
And then those dogs are sitting out there for weeks before anybody realizes it,
Well,
because animal control is not looking at this property on a daily basis.
Right.
And they also may not have access either.
Correct.
To-
And I think that plan also should be updated annually and submitted to animal control annually if you're gonna have it in place so that, she may have person A who's gonna do it this year, but person B is gonna do it next year.
Yeah, but you may not be able to find them either. So why not just have it, if something happens to her, Meriwether County Animal Control has the authority to go in there and take care of the animals and.
Because they may not know.
You should know the state requires an emergency plan.
Okay,
Really what it's meaning is giving animal control some more contact numbers.
Okay.
Primarily, if I'm not available, we'll call this or whatever, else tactical way. Trying to do that. So, well,
and this gentleman's concern right here, can we put in there that when she starts increasing these dogs, that fence has to be built?
We can.
I'd like to see that done.
Ms. Diamond, well, my last question for you.
Yes.
Because there's been a whole hell of a lot of buckets open tonight, okay? So out of everything you've heard and sat here and listened to,
Yes.
and you have heard what we think versus what you have wished for. If we were to say right now, you make the decision as to what you would be okay with coming in here with us, requesting that you need at least 40 puppies. And with the current stipulations that we have in place, I want to hear from you right now. What would you settle for?
I would like 20 adult dogs and 40 puppies a year. That's my request and a definition for an adult dog. I can live with 6 months. And I'm gonna look at them, coming back to check and see how everything's going. if they want.
You're amenable to.
I'm amenable. If you wanna come back and check in a year, how everything's going.
Well, the reason being is because it's like our attorney said, once we open that up and we do that special use, it's there. So it may not be that it needs to be there because everything that I've heard is financial. So if that financial part is met, we really don't need to extend that special use to 20 dogs per year. I think there are other avenues that we can go that will satisfy what you need and still allow you to do your business and be successful with it. So that's what I'm trying to get at. And there's been a lot of ideas and thoughts and what we should do here tonight. So I guess we just have to come up with the best thing to do it because we've been talking for over an hour now.
Right.
So we've got to figure out what is the best thing for the county, what is the best thing for citizens, what is the best thing for the future of this county, because not only do we not have to put our personal thoughts into things like this, we also have to look at the laws and we have to look at the future for Meriwether County and what we're setting a precedence for.
Michael, could the board set a special use for the time period for they themselves to look back at this?
No, I don't think they can do a temporary special use, if that's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, I was wondering if they could do a special use for 12 months.
And have it, and have it sunset and revert back. I don't believe
No,
that.
but we can set a special use and then
Yeah,
it could be limited and then Ms. Diamond could come back next year. And I know it's not what you want to do, but you don't have to come back with your attorney because that's costing you money. So that's why I'm asking you the questions because she can't charge you. But anyway, you could come back in a year and say, hey, this is what happened. This is the success or this is the decline that I had. And say, I really wish you would do this. And like our attorney said, once we put a special use in place, it's there. Very hard to take it back, revoke it. So we have to be very careful in setting that precedence, but we also have to look at what you're requesting to. So I know it may be a little inconvenience, but this is your third time. Maybe I won't be here by the time you come back for your fourth. So,
Chairman, I'd be glad to.
Mr. Key, we actually answered the fence. We did the fence. What we would need to know was general makeup of the fence, what you'd be expecting, your privacy fence would, and we need to know the height, the limitations of working county.
I would, oh, it's okay. I would think he'd be satisfied with their typical dog ear, 6 foot tall privacy fence, right?
You would be okay with the 6 foot tall.
wood fence.
Just regular wood fence, solid fence, yeah. Yeah, they don't need to be no tall.
Yeah.
Okay, it is my district.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, that's what I was gonna do.
And is that going just the length of her improvements? Is that going the length of her improvements, the width, because she's got a long track of property?
Yeah, it don't need to go, I'm just suggesting, because she's gonna have to put it in hers. I don't think it needs to go the whole 1,800 foot, but from wherever the activity is taking
that's all.
place.
That's what I'm saying. The length of the improvements would take it from wherever you would have an improvement to wherever.
If she was to improve it and go back further later on, she would extend that fence on later on.
So the trigger would be a new structure, is
I
that what
think
I'm
that's what I'm
understanding?
understanding, correct? If he
Okay.
expanded her structures, then.
Okay.
And
Well, no.
down the line, then she'd have to expand the fence to go that same
Our
distance.
current-
Not just that, I think what he's asking for, if whether we give her, whatever Rosa or whoever presents, how many more dogs, how many more litters, whatever, the fence needs to be built now. He wants the fence there so he don't see all the activity and stuff going on.
I understand that. I'm saying it is, right now she has structures on the property. So right now the fence would be limited to the length
To
of
that area.
that structure, but if she expanded, then she has.
Yes, sir. I
That's
apologize.
what I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
I'm not saying she doesn't have to build it. I'm saying she
Okay.
has to.
I'm on try. I just make the motion.
No,
Okay,
he's been at it.
if I've got this right, the recommendation from Planning and Zoning Board that, we would limit 15 adult dogs, 6 litters, or no more than 40 puppies per year. Whichever comes first. Oh, no. The plan to, in the event of an emergency, would be in place in case of, weather or other evacuation or getting sick or whatever, but I understand that is with the state. So you'd also have that.
And
as
you would
far as the privacy fence
Submit that plan annually to the animal control.
and the plan submitted annually to animal control here for our contact information. Don't leave anything out.
We were about to talk about the privacy fence, I think.
The privacy fence for the location is where the dogs are
6 foot high
at 6 foot high.
with a solid wood, got the voucher. Stuff like that.
Are you leaving the 6 months age in her recommendation as an adult?
I believe it's already there, right? The,
Let's make sure that's what you
okay.
intended
yes,
6 months. Okay.
Yes. The adult dogs that are 6 months or older.
And you put all that together?
Again,
Well, you did put it all together.
I'm sorry. Whichever comes first.
Beverly, do you have the motion? I just want to make sure you have the motion.
Limit 15 adult dogs, 6 litters, no more than 40 puppies per year, whichever comes first. Emergency plan in place for weather or sickness. Incident annual control. And a privacy fence for the location where the dogs are solid wood 6 foot tall, with 6 months of age considered as an adult dog.
Is there anything else
I would always say on the south property.
on the south property line for the privacy fence? And I put that in the form of a motion.
And I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all. Wow.
Goodness.
All right. Thank you. Next item, appointments. Item number 1, appointment to Region 6 Department of Behavior, Health and Development Disabilities Board to fill a 3-year term. Current term to expire June 30th, 2023.
Like motion to nominate Chairman Brian Threadgill for that post.
I have a motion. Do we have a second? A second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. I'll be glad to do it. All right. Item number 2, appointment to Kathy to fill an unexpired term. Does anyone have anyone? You know, commissioners can be on the Kathy board too. Do I have a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Have a second? Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries, table. Appointment to Airport Authority District 3 to fill unexpired term.
Make a motion to table that for the next meeting.
I'll second it. Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. Unfinished business, item number 1, addition of Trammell Mill Bottom Road.
Trammell Bottom Road.
Yeah.
That's my district, and this is continuation from when we discussed. We're waiting for the bids to come back. And I understand that for 3.5-inch patching, will come to a total of 34,001.
We recommend that we execute the change orders, put it into the bid contract for 3.5 inch patching at an estimated cost of $34,000. And we will get approval signature of the.
And I make a motion for us to move forward, to approve this $34,190, and it would come out of SPOS and LMIG.
Go in as part of our.
So, and with the chairman to sign the change order.
I second that.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. All right, next item, new business, public access easement by Quakers Properties LLC in Meriwether County. Do I need to sign that? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, as you may recall, y'all abandoned the road at Twin Lakes Road between 2 sections. What was it, Rat Road and I'm blanking on the other portion of it. As part of that abandonment, y'all had a condition that it would be left open to pedestrian traffic. A easement has been drafted by Stephen Jones, who was the attorney for Quercus. And it's been reviewed by legal, and that is what's being presented to y'all tonight for approval and for allowing the chair to sign and allowing it to be attested by the clerk.
What's legal recommendation?
The easement itself is fine.
Staff would that hold us liable if anything happened out there? Because we abandoned the road, they're the ones who should be able to open it up and go public to, welcome.
It's actually a good question, and no, we don't believe it would. There is a provision in the Georgia Code that allows for whenever any entity opens up area for recreation to the general public on land not public land, that you waive liability. The liability is waived under Georgia law for that, and we made it clear that the easement that our entitlement to the easement is solely for that recreation that we discussed. And that we, as well as the owner of the property, we're opening it up subject to that code section. In addition, as you'd probably know, typically the benefiting party is responsible for the upkeep of an easement. That will not be the case in this situation. The owner will be responsible for the upkeep of the easement area. All right, so that it doesn't put any additional costs on the county or its taxpayers.
We may have a quick claim deed coming back.
That's correct. They're just to tidy up the real property records. It's not required by law. All it's required to abandon the road is to have it certified in the minutes. But it's been Mr. Gay suggested we do a quick claim deed. I agreed. We submitted that to Quercus's attorney, and they're going to draft a quick claim for that same area for the county to approve. It won't change anything. It's just to clean up the real property records and make it clear that that road is now, or that area where the road used to be is now owned by Quercus.
So why would we even need to, like, if I have property over the Flint River, if I wanted to open it, and let people start coming and going and putting kayaks and stuff in, I would be able to come in here and ask the county to do the same thing, give public access?
Well, we made the
Property?
decision to close it,
Right.
so we have to go in and allow this to be done. Because
That
we
was the
did,
condition of the-
That was a condition y'all required because there were people who wanted to use that road for hiking, for biking, non-motorized biking, etc. But y'all didn't want the motorized vehicles, so it's only for pedestrian traffic, non-motorized pedestrian traffic.
Oh, I thought that was the conditions that they were offering, that if
No,
we
no,
closed it, that they would be willing to leave it open for.
They were willing to leave it open for that purpose, and the easement is to the county for that purpose, for the county citizens to use for that purpose if they so want.
And this is what they wanted, this is their response back to that.
And that was specifically requested or requested by the county to address concerns that those who didn't want to see the road closed. Some of the concerns that those who didn't want to see the road closed had was we hike that trail or we ride our bikes out there, etc. And y'all, that's why y'all required Quercus to keep that open for that purpose.
so what do we need to make a motion of?
You need to make a motion to approve the easement, allow the chair to sign and allow the clerk to attest.
Do I have a motion
Do that, I guess.
for the attorney? Do I have a motion based on what the attorney stated?
I'll make a motion for this easement based on what the attorney and they laid out to us here for the right of way down through that rat road or whatever we call it. I mean, Twin Lakes and yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, motion carries. All right, next item on the new business, jail route. Mr. Gay.
Yes, sir. You guys know that we have, you guys have already approved the award bid for the jail roof project. And what they originally sit back in was their contract. Of course, we provided the contract, so we wanted it in our contract document. And so what before you tonight is to be able to execute that contract for that project. This is with ACR roofing and is 214-661-31. And this is really just the paperwork we bring it back to have executed. Once they get this paperwork back in, they'll be able to provide us with bonds, and then we'll be able to give them a notice to proceed.
Any questions?
This is just on the jail, not on the annex section. We recommend approval with allowing the chairman to say.
Do I have a motion to accept?
Make a motion to accept the jail road with
Allow.
as allowed and allowed here.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second, all in favor? Motion carries. All right, report from county administrator.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner said, this pretty quick. I got a lot of things to say, and if anybody has any questions about it, second time, just if you let me know afterwards, I'll be able to get you. We'll give you guys an update on Cobra Creek Road. As you know, the bridge is out on 27, and we make quite a time at Copeland Creek Circle. We have been there, monitored it, we met with GDOT, we've had more signage, we went out, put up signs, we had people run through the signs. It's just been an ongoing issue. I talked this afternoon with GDOT, and I asked them to put in another forward warning sign up in the northern part, because we've had 2 people already run through that sign. They've also asked them to up the enforcement by their enforcement agency, the state. Because right now, mostly what's happening is the sheriff's office. So they've done a good job with it, but they keep me up there all the time. And then I've asked them to give me a call, expect to call tomorrow, because of the condition of this road. This road was built for just a small amount of residential traffic. And it is continuously getting a much heavier section in amount of traffic. Plus, we've got the trucks that are constantly trying to get by. And yesterday morning, I think it was, I flashed my lights for that he was going there. When I flashed my lights, he thought it was the police, but they turned around and came back. But it's just, but we need to ask GDOT to help us with this. Because right now the road's just coming up in chunks, and I would like to talk to them about maybe having an overlay where we could seal in some of that that asphalt that's there, that's loose. That's not going to be the cure-all for it, but it should help. I'm asking for some more signage, and I also wanted to consider, right now I think we're at 35 speed limit, and if there's a way, and I'll probably talk to Michael about it, a way to designate that as a construction zone and reduce that speed limit down to 25 during this construction project. I'd like to be able to do that, but we still need to be sure we can go radar. But I think we need to slow the trucks down, slow the cars down. Somebody pointed out today that schools will be opening soon, and the school buses. So that's all the more reason. But GDOT has told me they're going to call, try to get more enforcement. And they're supposed to call me tomorrow to discuss how we can overlay or improve things that way. So we're constantly monitored. I come through there 2 or 3, 4 times a day. We're constantly monitored.
If we can't lower the speed limit because of the construction zone, can we put in speed bumps to slow them down?
And I've been talking to Coughlin about today. We just got some in for another project. But I would say, let's put it back, right? And I think we can lower it to 25. They not be able to lower the radar.
I was thinking it may be more of a issue to lower it than it would just to be put those up.
Yeah. And I think that my recommendation would be that we do those speed bumps.
You would know more than I, but I ran into a problem in Coweta County with some subdivision stuff. Would that not be in a subdivision and that's a regular road? They would not let it happen over there. We try to get down in Coweta County because they were doing construction. Everybody was leaving Lower Fayetteville Road and cutting around, and they would not permit it because fire trucks go through that way, ambulances go through that way. So that's an open road. So the main problem is keeping those tractor trailers and the big vehicles out of there. So you may have to look at just slowing, putting barrels out in construction zone, like you said, and lower the speed limit. The homeowners may not. I know if I lived there, I wouldn't want to have to start coming home every day, go over those speed bump.
Yeah.
So you might want to look.
And I think sign's not going to make somebody compliant.
I know that.
A speed bump will.
I know that.
Last week I saw a tractor trailer truck run a family off into a yard.
Yeah.
All the way off the road. And but yeah, I mean, I understand that the problem is they won't comply, and the problem with lowered it to 25 is usually you can't run radar below 35 miles an hour. So that is a problematic for you. We could list a construction zone, we could do something, and I'd like to be able to work with Michael and start with you guys.
Oh, yes.
But I do think the speed bumps might be, and we would sign ahead saying speed bumps. And we would sign it there, and once it's done, these are speed bumps can be taken back up.
Right. We put some in an area in my district in a heavily populated, and it really helped. And the neighbors were very thankful.
Okay.
So,
but I also think when we talk to GDOT, we also need to let them know that we're looking at requesting that they replace that road because it is just.
I wrote out. It was already in rough shades.
Yes.
But you can see all the new breakage. You can see what's coming up in chunks.
It's every day.
So
It's,
my phone rings, trust me.
yeah. I got some calls there, the president said to call back, and I make try to set thing. So I just want you guys know what we're doing on that. Also, we talked about a state road tollway authority grant that we will apply to the KB industrial entrance. Despite them being very excited about that, thinking it was a great project, when it came down to it, they told us last week, well, we didn't really get that approved. So what I want to do is to look for another project where we could move that money to.
That was the transfer.
That was a transfer, yes. We had another project, we tried to transfer it to KB. And the project that we originally had it on is not a project that we would recommend that you guys do right now. But I would like to see if I can get those dollars transferred to another project that we are going to do and utilize that. So I will be working on that.
KB's not gonna do the project.
Oh, yes, KB's gonna do the project.
We can't use the.
They will let us use that grant and that loan, which we really want is interested in loan. We want a grant, it's like $100,000. But I'm gonna see if I can't get that put on the other project, in which we leave $100,000 here. And put it back.
But we'll have to come up with 100,000 for the KB project.
Right, you have to. And I'm trying to get it where they don't just wipe it off and say you don't get it. I'm trying to replace that project somewhere else with another project. And then we take that money and put it back.
What was their reasoning for not transferring?
You know, I don't know. I mean, they were so excited about it. It did, you know, I called the check on it and they called me back and said, hey, look, I just want to let you know that they just, you know, didn't want to transfer it to this. I think they were concerned because it was an industry going in and it's hard.
I'd be curious as to know the reason, because if we're looking at putting it somewhere else, and we need to make sure before we do that and request it, that it's not going to be
turned down. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to the gentlemen over that and see what we do about getting that taken care of. Also, we've been working hard with IDA on the industrial prospects and some access options, and I'll talk to you guys about in the future. We've got RFPs, bids have already been out and let on River Cove, Duke Swaddell, Strickertown. I think the pipes for Duke Swaddell came in today. We got the jail roof, which you guys executed earlier. We got an RFP out right now for jail plumbing. We got an RFP in process for jail locks, dirt road improvements, Beulah Evans, tax building. The AC coils for the jail have shipped. They'll be here in about 7 to 10 days. There's a couple that didn't have in stock, so those are going to be out 6 or 8 weeks. But what the company's going to do is they're going to come in if they get 4 or 5, they'll come in and fix those and then come back. So we're in the process of dealing with that. We're about to send out a request for bid for self-contained breathing apparatus. This is for fire department, the air tanks. Right now, we only have one area that they could go and refill those tanks. And so they applied for a grant and received a $95,000 grant to be able to put in 2 more filling areas for we could refill these tanks. That will get the firefighters back into service quicker. We have one here in Greenville. One of these is going in Luthersville and one in Woodbury. There's also an already one that we share with Manchester. And so the project's the cost is probably going to be in the 130 range. We may have, you know, $25,000 or $30,000 to add to it, but it's still a good investment. We did get that, and I already have that grant out there in place. It's $95,000 back. We reached agreement with Liberty Gas to relocate their meter to the water and sewer meter site, which is will help us with some issues we've had with gas for a long time. The engineering for the Greenville Recreation Park is about 90% complete. We'll set up a meeting with the engineer here. That was to a grant that we had that's out there, and we're going to construct a passive park. The pathways, people I think were moved from the building. They've been moved. Going to have the locks just rekeyed just because I don't know who has a lock. And we're moving forward right now with the software for the agenda and the open records software that is budgeted, much needed by Beverly and Allison in our office because we get really strapped down with a lot of the open record requests. So the software we're going to be looking at getting that. It was budgeted in this year's budget. So that's what I have. Do have some executive session.
Well, I think with the pathways building too, we also need to have Matthew go out and look at it to see and get an assessment done as to what he would have to do to get it up to where we need it for county. So go do that.
I've got public buildings bringing me a key, and we're gonna go out, and look at that. I have never been in the buildings. We'll go out and look at that building next week.
Well, that building in the back too that we're not utilizing, we need to look at putting some type of security system on that, because you gotta have homeless people go back there, sleep in and break in, and it's not gonna be monitored all the time because it's not used. So we need to look at all that, but he does need to do an assessment on it.
We'll, I'll get with him and we'll go out there and take a look at it.
Is that what balloons are?
Yes.
Okay, so that, good to know on business class.
Next item is report from county commissioners. Commissioner Word.
Look, I just looked at it.
I don't have anything specific. I do have a question for, Mr. Gay. We did put out quote for the tax commission officers and things.
We're working on that. We still just have not, I mean, we've been just really flooded. But we do have that. I think I've got this. I just may not have mentioned, it's tax building. We're gonna try to do some exterior work on that. And we're also gonna try to get someone to come in and look at it on the interior as well. And the courthouse, we've been working on that. There's actually up under the clock tower is I'll describe it as a bowl that catches water that blows in. And it doesn't have a drain port. So what we're gonna be doing is putting in and tapping in like a condensation line to drain that out. And we're hoping that that's gonna address with the work we've already done, a lot of the leaks that we've had. So we'll be putting that line in here real soon. And we have a lot of RFPs we need to get out. We're trying to work to get those done.
Other than that, just thank everyone for what they do and for your commitment.
Mr. King.
I'm grateful for what everybody's doing and all the hard work the staff having to step up and you stepping back in to give us a hand here again. I guess Barry and them must have got a good, a new load of quick packs they use.
Right.
Because where I'm seeing they're fixing that right now.
Right.
Great.
Right.
The stuff they had been using, they put it in there and 2 days, 3 days later, it looks like little crumbs.
Right.
And he said it was old stuff. I don't know what they've got now, where they got it from, but they need more of it. But
yeah,
I had a bunch of complaints for Mount Carmel Road, Alps Road, Forest Road.
Okay.
I sent it all over to Barry when I'm talking about within, I guess, 48 hours. All these people took time to text or email or call me and go, wow, thanks for getting that done. I said, well, that's our road department that got it done. I just passed the message. And but I went and checked and this good black pack. I mean, it's looks like a new asphalt road would look like, so I don't know where they got that from, but they need to keep it up because it's not coming right back up a day or two later. It's solid.
Good. They're using a cold patch right there. We're using a lot of it up here on Coven Creek, so we probably use all our old stuff up.
And get some new stuff.
Right.
Well, I'm glad we got some new stuff. Let's keep getting some new stuff.
Right.
But other than that, I don't have anything else to say except just I'm just glad we're making people realize we're trying to get things done and they're appreciating it, and that's what we got to keep forward doing.
Absolutely.
And I'll go ahead. I don't have much either, except we did, I think, Valerie put out advertisements for the administrative assistant. So
right.
We'll start getting some of that in.
Yes, that's a position we need desperately to help.
The only thing I would say, what I saw her put out was that it reports to the county clerk. I don't think it needs to be that. I think it needs to report to the administrator because it is an admin assistant. Right. And therefore it is for the admin building. Right. And it needs to be for everybody instead of just report to the county clerk. Sorry, David. Ms. Roseland.
She's, we'll
work that out. Actually, I've got a couple of things. First off is a request. Contavious Caldwell Pope is a professional basketball player that actually born and raised here in Greenville and Greenville High School. He's playing with the Denver Nuggets. And the request is that on August the 5th at noon, there's going to be a parade here in town. They'd like to use, the request is coming from Mayor Pro Tem for the city of Greenville to use the west lawn of the courthouse for, they'll be speaking and other things following. And as far as I'm concerned, I have no problem with that, but I just want to bring it to the board. and ask permission that, you know, that he will be recognized. And I believe there may be other requests in the process. And I know I had suggested we might want to do a resolution on that as well. And maybe.
Be a resolution or proclamation.
Proclamation. Okay, proclamation, the next meeting or whatever, but,
Well, why not you just do the proclamation that day
that,
yourself
okay.
as that district representative? Yeah.
For that side of the courthouse.
Well, I mean, you just do it. Yeah.
Well, we split the courthouse.
Then y'all both go there. I think just acknowledge that y'all are fine with the use of that courthouse.
That's fine.
Cause he'll be there that day. I doubt he's gonna come to a meeting here.
Right, and I'll see if we can work that out. But the other thing is that really kind of disturbed me, and I thought, well, you know, it might be a lack of people understanding, but this past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of social media concerning the Red Oak Covered Bridge. And I just want to remind everybody that this was designated as a Georgia Trust top 10 places in peril. And this was done last year in 2022. So, but we had a meeting over there on March 31st of 2021. I actually have some pictures on my phone where we met with Mark McDonald, who's with the Georgia Trust. He brought his staff down, engineer and architect, along with, of course, Commissioner Alfred McCoy, myself, Theron, Carolyn McKinley, and Bill Cawthorn. But the meeting was held to discuss corrective measures that needed to be taken for some improper and unauthorized additions to the covered bridge. And with that being said, a lot of the social media posts would indicate that that something may have been inappropriate. But what I want to say is that we follow the recommendations from the Georgia Trust, and they have been most helpful in the design and everything as far as the bridge. And by it being on a place in peril, it does qualify us for grants and future help. And the Georgia Trust will be the ones that we would reach out to. But no one, absolutely no one should be doing anything to the covered bridge without the written permission of this Board of Commissioners, because it would be our responsibility then to go back to the Georgia Trust for any recommendations as to what needs to be done. But with that being said, it is a treasure. And with that, I have asked Carolyn, and I think a plan will be in place for this November for another dinner for the Chamber of Commerce. So it's something to be proud of, and I want us to take every opportunity we can to recognize that we do appreciate Georgia Trust and the support that we've received from them. With that, I think that's going to be it.
I thought you were reaching for the gavel to
No.
stop us.
No, I'm sorry. Let's go push it back up. You know, if you guys don't mind, meeting, I guess, for about 30 seconds on that. The reality is somebody put on the thing that we just don't have the barricades that we have, like cages you have to drive through. You can just drive around them on either side, and that we went down and took braces out, etc. Reality is we do have those barricades up. And if you want to drive over it, then you drive over boulders about the size of that podium.
Yeah, you may get by on a bike or ATV.
Yeah. And then, or you got to go through a gate that we put up for utility. If you go in from the east end, you got to go down to the swamp and climb the side of the ramp to get down there. So all that's untrue. We had someone go down, and I think he was trying to be a good Samaritan. And he decided he would put some braces here. Well, what you have is you have a ceiling here that comes down with the wall. So you have created here a space that's open that you could travel through. Well, this person took the bracing and run it from the ceiling over to the wall. Okay. We had a truck that came through that I've probably been able to go through there in the past. Couldn't go through there, knocked down 12 of those braces that were put up there. Only because they encroached into the open here.
Which actually probably caused more damage structurally by hitting it than it would have just dropped.
Exactly, and that was a real concern. We actually got it engineered out because we were really concerned that that was a major impact by hitting those braces, and breaking 12 of them. So yes, we went back in and we sawed those braces off at the roof edge. That way it opens it back up to that area.
Yeah.
And they did should have really been put in. But
And the citizen did have good intent.
but it's just, you know, people would rather get on the internet and just say something that's not true than to go out and find out that it's true. So anyway, that, I think y'all can put me, give a comment out there.
Mr. Collins?
I just like to thank all the county employees for the job they doing well, and I'd like to thank Mr. Gay for filling in as interim. And I've got several calls from the road, said the road, one lady said her road was the best it's been in 20 years. So it's a turnaround, so they're getting something done. And, that's all I have to say. I'd like to thank all of y'all for working for us, working together.
What it's about.
Speaking of staff, you know, we appreciate all of those.
All right, next item, county attorney.
I have no report. I do understand we have need for executive session for litigation or potential litigation and personnel.
Next meetings will be August 9th, 2023, regular meeting at 9 AM and August 22nd, 2023 at 6 PM. Do I have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of potential litigation and personnel? So I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. We're in executive session at 8:10. Jean made the motion. Rosalind made the second. All right, do I have a motion to go back into regular session? Motion to have a second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. We're back in regular session at 9:06. No action was taken in executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Motion to have a second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. We're